Hey guys, aloha. This is Tiggy Maximus with Tiggy Maximus Talks, episode 241 on Spotify and YouTube. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast, watching the podcast, spreading the word to your friends and family, and even donating to the podcast, which you can do. There's a link on my episodes of Spotify and YouTube where it allows you to click on it, takes you to a window, and it allows you to donate to the podcast. So, this episode 241, I'm going to talk about two comedy shows and talk a little bit about the Chargers. And let's get to it. So, first show. I believe the show was, I want to say it was the 200th show anniversary. Just so happens that it was also Cash Comedy's birthday. So apparently he turns 55. It was a packed house at the Pally Wine in Little Italy. And I believe he had quite the lineup. It was a mixture of a few things. And I remember getting something called the Little Goddess salad. So it had like a lot of fruits on there, celery, carrots, and I do need my veggies. You guys seen what I actually eat on a normal basis, and sometimes you gotta throw in some veggies in there. But um, the veggies were, it's about as good as it gets. Um, they were kind of they weren't soft, but they were kind of, a little not as crunchy, but it's what you expect out of like celery sticks and carrot sticks and some other fruits. Um, I mean, they just have a nice display, but they're known for their vegan menu. So, um, but of course, they have a lot of wine on their menu, and they always have this patio, very spacious, and it does hold a lot of tables and a lot of people. So for this particular show with Cash Comedy, his 200th show at Pally Wine, um, he brought out James Strader. He was the host for the whole show. Cash got to talk at the very end, so you get to close out the show. There was I guess you could call a comedy roast of Cash Habib. You got Alex Petit and Colton Harpy doing the roasting. They had these blown up pictures of Cash's face and head on a stick, and they both were Cash Habib, Cash Comedy. There was an improv group. I remember there was Paula Diaz. Um, she's an improv pro, and she had brought her group with her. Um, I think the improv group was Mockingbird Improv. So I might have got it, that might be it. So there was four of them. So it was, including Paula, it was two women and two guys. I only remember Paula though. So there was a guest appearance by, I believe his name is Joseph DePaul. He's a magician, comedian. So he was um, doing well, trying to find people to talk to, show some card tricks, and Um, Honestly, it was kind of cool seeing him again. He does kind of remember me a little bit, so that was kind of cool. Also, there was Al Gabby, who was gonna do pretty much the entire Cash comedy set, um, all the funny bits, the jokes, from all the times Cash has ever done his comedy. Um, Maybe he could do it as good as him or even better. So, James Schrader, um, well, he did start off the show, and what's cool is that the show was actually taking place on the wood area patio that's elevated, and it's actually um, it's above, it's elevated, so it's actually a little higher than everybody else standing on the floor of the patio of the restaurant in the backyard. Normally, it's in the front of the patio. In the back is to like the residential homes or townhomes. But this time they switched it up. They decided to do the stage on the wooden deck patio of the patio. Does that make sense? So, so it was kind of nice to actually look up at the comedians as opposed to almost um, eye level, which is the usual setup. But but yeah, this is a 200th show for Cash Comedy at Pally Wine, and with James Schrader starting off, I gotta say with him hosting, um, well, I gotta say it wasn't the best I've seen from James. James usually gets some good laughs, but it was kind of chill. Not a lot of laughing going on for most of the people. I didn't really laugh that much myself. So I thought James Schrader was a 7 out of 10. Um, I believe next up was Alex Petit and Colton Harpy, and they're going to roast Cash Comedy. They used the sticks with the big head picture of Cash Habib, and they were gonna do some funny bits. Some of it was kind of racist, but it was really funny, tastefully done. I would say the funniest part about the roast was when Alex and Colton had mentioned that, um, kind of implied that he dated a lot of women that was in the crowd, and um, Alex and Colton had asked, "Did anyone here not sleep with Cash Habib?" Um, I gotta say, it was a good looking crowd, so I could see why they could, you know, mention how Cash does get a lot of ladies in his life. So, oh, his daughter was there too. I actually got to talk to her for a little bit. Um, I guess she doesn't really go to the shows as much because she's heard it all, and you know, I guess you make fun of your daughter on stage. You get tired of it, I guess, but it's fun. Um, let's see. Um, Apparently, Colton and Alex might have ran out of material, and there were some funny parts, and there were a good bit of people laughing at some times, but they weren't really laughing throughout the whole time they were up there. But but it's interesting. They would go with some of the racist jokes, but it's all in good fun. Um, I want to say overall that segment with the roasting, I want to say it was like an 8 out of 10. They had some really good funny parts in there, and I really felt that the crowd was into it about half the time, if at most half the time. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for Colton and Alex. Um, and I guess the improv group, the with Paula, uh, and the Mockingbird Improv, which I think is the Mockingbird Improv. It might be called something else, but I think that's how I know her. So who knows? Um, they did a lot of skits, and I guess the skits were kind of based off of what they've heard throughout the show. Um, but for some strange reason, it was hard for me to find a time to actually laugh, and then I think it was also hard for other people in the crowd too. So they couldn't really find a time during the entire skit of the improv where they could laugh out loud, and they were just, I guess, seeing how this whole thing would turn out, and then they will give them a round of applause at the end. So maybe some chuckles during the skit, but I'm kind of used to the fact that on a comedy show you would kind of laugh almost every minute or every few minutes, but it went on for a while without really laughing. So you can hear the silence. People just kind of watching to see how the skit goes. It kind of felt bad, and it might not have been the great crowd to do this on. So, but you know, this improv group are professionals, but I guess this crowd just wasn't as much into it. Um, and it might have been very hard to follow. So, um, the improv group, I want to give them a 5 out of 10. And then I believe we have Al Galley, who is going to do um, the entire set Cash Comedy has ever done. Um, you hear this stuff about the rubber, you hear stuff about Venmo, the daughter, um, the dialects that Cash knows. Um, so kind of the usual hits. And Al Gabby did a decent job. Normally he would get more laughs, but I heard some. There were laughs for like every couple of minutes here and there. Um, I don't know if it was actually much better than when Cash does it, but um, but yeah, I guess in a sense that because everyone has heard of the jokes before, and this crowd have seen Cash do it, so um, don't know how many people were new customers or new audience members, honestly, because if everyone has been here before and they've heard Cash do these jokes, so um, but I would say Al Gabby was a 8.2 out of 10 for doing Cash comedy set. So and then Cash went up last, and he got to pretty much told the crowd the history of his comedy career and how everything came about, and got to know some of his friends and family. And it was kind of cool getting to know Cash through that. So, um, but it was kind of chill. I don't think he was really doing any jokes. He was just kind of talking. Um, so honestly, I wouldn't really give Cash much of a rating because he didn't really do jokes. He just kind of like giving us the 411 on the whole comedy thing. So, but yeah, um, decent show. I kind of expected maybe more like kind of headliners all in the same show because he usually has a lot of great headliners and a great lineups most nights. So, but this one was kind of chill. I kind of expected more out of the 200th show, but um, you gotta see what you can try out and what works in the audience. So, but yeah, normally on most nights, go watch Colton Harpy, go watch Alex Petit. They put on some great shows. Cash Comedy, he has a bunch of shows around town. Um, Al Gabby, he has a show out in Comedy Heights, out Lestats and Adams Avenue. Um, but yeah, go see all of them. Um, you'll have a great time when it's under normal conditions of comedy. Um, another show I went to was kind of like a 420 themed comedy show at the Mic Drop. It was hosted, produced by Camille Waters. Um, she had some new jokes. She does, I guess, live out of town now. She lives in LA. So, but, her stuff was pretty good. Um, talking about her daughter, her friends, dating. Um, honestly, I think she was an 8.75 out of 10. Next up, I believe we had Callie Scott. First time hearing her perform. I'm actually going to see her later tonight at the Mic Drop. Thursday night. She did talk about, like, dating. I guess, and then she did pretty well with the crowd actually. I I I kind of found it that the people were laughing for maybe at least half of her set for most of the people. So that's pretty good. So I want to say Callie Scott was a 8.5 out of 10. I believe you also had Mikey Perry on the show. Um, Mikey did mostly crowd work. He did talk to this one couple that was in the front. Um, but um, it was funny at times, and you never know what would happen when you do crowd work with people. So um, I want to say that Mikey Perry was 8 out of 10 for his comedy. There was Walter Ford. Um, he didn't do too bad. Uh, about he got some good laughs. Um, I would say no more than half the crowd was probably laughing at most of the stuff he was talking about. So I want to say he was like it was probably like an 8 out of 10. And then this one actually surprised me. The funniest person in the group was actually Sammy Weiser, first time seeing her, and she talks about dating, um, drugs, and honestly, she kept people laughing throughout most of her set. I was laughing a lot. Um, I want to say she was like a 8.9 out of 10. And apparently, Tradecraft Farms was giving out some free stuff, and there's some other vendors there that gave out some free stuff as well. So there's a goodie bag of cannabis stuff. Um, Overall, decent show. A lot of great comics on there. Go see Camille, go see Mikey, go see Walter, go see Sammy, go see Kylie. Um, and yeah, so and then well, guys, the Los Angeles Chargers, they did lose to New York Giants. They didn't win a game until they decided to change to a rookie quarterback and I guess a rookie running back, Scattaboo, Jackson Dart, being the quarterback. So they surprised the Chargers. The Chargers were like undefeated and they were the number one defense in the league. And well, the Giants led the entire game. And the defensive line was anchored by Abdul Carter. I think he's like a second year, first year guy. He was such a monster, making it so bad for Justin Herbert, who was like running for his life. And we also lost a couple of offensive linemen, so there's a big hole in the offensive line. We lost three guys on the offensive line. Can you imagine that? So we lost 21-18, and Justin Herbert just couldn't get enough time to get the ball down the field so they could set up for a field goal. So that was unfortunate. And then I actually ended up going to the game against the Commanders at SoFi Stadium. I brought one of the comics, Aaron Gonzalez. We were actually ahead 10-0. And what's funny is that the Chargers were about to go up 17-0, but Quentin Johnston caught the ball in the red zone, and he's getting closer for the Chargers for another touchdown to go up 17-0, except the Commanders stripped the ball from Quentin Johnston, and the Chargers ended up giving up 27 straight points, and we lost 27-10. I'm so sad. But hey, the Chargers beat the Dolphins on a field goal. Yay!